My wife and I got married after meeting at work. After we got married, my wife quit her job and became a housewife for a while. She had no children and was free, so she took a part-time job at a supermarket. I was 32 and she was 30. After we got married, my job got busy and I started working overtime. I came home almost always late at night, and I had to work on my days off more and more, so I didn't have many chances to have dinner with my wife. My wife never complained about it and took care of the house and part-time work while worrying about my health. "I'm sorry I can't be with you even when we were newlyweds," I apologized to her. Then my wife says, "You know what they say, a good wife can stay at home," and laughed. "I have a part-time job and I enjoy going out to lunch with friends, so I'm fine," she said. After a year of marriage, when I finally settled down at work and was able to go out with my wife on weekends, have dinner and do normal couple things, she told me that she wanted to have a baby. I was a little surprised because my wife had never asked me to have sex with her while we were dating. But I was also thinking that it was time for us to have a child, so I did my best to make her happy. A short time later, my wife found out she was pregnant and quit her part-time job to become a full-time housewife. The thought of having a child made me happy, and I worked even harder than before. It would be the first grandchild for both my parents and my wife's parents, so they were both very happy. The baby was a boy and he looked a lot like my wife. I always liked children, but my own child was really cute and adorable. I was really happy to think that I would be able to watch him grow until I die. 3 years later, last summer, something happened. After our son was born, my work started to get busy again, but I was helping out as much as I could with childcare. That day, I was taking a day off from work. While my wife was out to lunch with her mom because I was at home, our son suddenly fell ill. He kept vomiting and having diarrhea, so I took him to the doctor. Because of his symptoms, the hospital took blood samples to see if it was viral. The results showed that it was not viral, but vomiting and diarrhea caused by the common cold. "Doesn't look like he has any viruses," the doctor told me while showing me the results. On the paper, it said my son had B-type blood. I couldn't believe my eyes. My blood type is O, and my wife's is A, so there's no way our child could have type B blood. My son wasn't feeling well at the time, so I didn't say anything and went home. My wife was already home, worried about our son. "It's just a cold," I told her, but I could barely think straight. I only saw it for a split second, so I knew it could have been a mistake, but I was so concerned that I couldn't stand it any longer, so I secretly requested a DNA test. I was so anxious until I got the results. Whenever my son called me daddy, I always responded as usual, but inside, I was in a state of shock. I was thinking, what is this child? Then I received the results of the test and looked at them with horror and despair. My son was not my child. It was as if everything that had happened up to that point had collapsed all at once. After seeing the results, I could no longer think of my child as anything other than a different creature. I wondered if we could remain a happy family if I just kept my mouth shut. I know that the child is completely innocent, but after I realized that the child was not my own, all I could think was, why is he in my house? From then on, I couldn't even eat well, and even if I did eat, I would throw up. I was so distraught that I even remembered that there was a divorced person who worked at my company and I talked to him about it. "How do I get a divorce?" I asked him. "Why are you asking me about a divorce?" He laughed at me. But when I told him what it was about, he put on a straight face and listened intently. Then, "You should contact a lawyer," and he introduced me to a lawyer. He told me he was the person who helped with the divorce, so I decided to ask and talk to him with the results of the DNA test. The lawyer was surprised that I had already done the test. He told me that they sometimes test for court purposes during divorce, but this was the first time anyone had done it privately. The lawyer then asked me what I wanted to do. I told him that I wanted a divorce, to relinquish custody, to deny child support, and to demand alimony and the cost incurred to date in raising the child. The lawyer thought about it for a while and agreed that divorce and custody would be no problem, and alimony would be fine. He also said that the cost of raising the child would be rough, but if I disavowed the child's legitimacy, I would be successful. "Then I would appreciate it if you would not talk to your wife without me present," the lawyer said. He said that he would make sure that a third party was listening, or else there might be an argument about what someone said or didn't say, so he would be present and he would also record the conversation with a voice recorder. Then we set up a schedule and I decided to take my wife out on what I called a date. I left the kids with my wife's parents and took her to the lawyer's office. My wife said, "Huh? What? Why are we at a lawyer's office?" She was confused, but I ignored her. Then we sat down with the lawyer. The lawyer said, "I will do the talking, so please keep your emotions in check," and warned us in advance. The lawyer told her what I wanted to do and showed her the results of the DNA test and told her everything. My wife didn't seem to understand what the lawyer meant when he started talking, but after seeing the results of the test, her face turned pale, her eyes went blank, and she was on the verge of hyperventilating. The lawyer said, "Please talk to me after you calm down," and we took a break for a while. After we got married, I was too busy with my work to talk to her, and she was lonely, but then the manager at her part-time job invited her out to dinner, and that's when their relationship began. The frequent lunches with her friends were all lies. and every time she met the manager, they had sex. She took birth control pills behind my back and had sex with him, but she got tired of it and told me she wanted to have a baby with me. She told me that she had been with 2 men at the same time, and one of them happened to impregnate her. My wife, or rather the whore, was confessing without any expression on her face, as if she had come to her senses or had reopened her mind. I had been feeling sick from the middle of the conversation, and as soon as the conversation was over, I went to the bathroom and threw up. Even now, after everything was over, I still feel sick. When I came back from the restroom, my lawyer was proceeding with the story. He was asking my wife, who insisted that the relationship was over now, if she had his phone number or text messages left. My wife replied that she had deleted their text, but she still had his number. Then the lawyer told her to contact him here and now. Naturally, my wife was surprised. The lawyer said that she had to tell him that she had his child. "Do not tell him that your husband knows. I will tell you what to say." My wife made a phone call with trembling hands. The lawyer wrote down, "I was sorting through my contact and remembered and contacted you." After a few rings, the man answered the phone. My wife read exactly what the lawyer wrote down. Then the lawyer wrote a note saying, "Can we meet?" and had my wife ask that to the man on the phone. The man said, "Are you lonely? Sure, let's meet," and agreed. As per the lawyer's instruction, my wife gave him the date and time, and we made an appointment to meet. Once the discussion ended there, I decided to go home and pack up my stuff and go back to my parents' house. I told my parents that I was going to stay there for a bit because I had a big fight with my wife. My mom said, "How did you get into a fight? Did you do something?" She asked me persistently. My dad said, "Even if the woman is in the wrong, it's the man's duty to apologize." I just made something up to avoid their questions. The day my wife and her affair partner were to meet was during the day on a weekday, so I asked my boss if I could get a day off. My boss said, "All right, go ahead and figure this out." I heard later that my coworker had talked to my boss about my situation. I thought to myself, "Oh, come on," but it made the conversation go more smoothly and save the day in the end. As the day of the meeting approached, I was feeling so sick that I had been vomiting and having diarrhea since the morning. After I calmed down by using the restroom at the lawyer's office, I went with the lawyers to the meeting place for where my wife and the other man were to meet. We had chosen a meeting place close to the office, and it was also close to where the man worked, so it was easy for us to meet. After confirming that my wife and the man had met up, my lawyer and I showed up and took them to the lawyer's office. The man said, "Huh? Is this a prank?" and said stupid things. When we got to the office, the lawyer pulled out a voice recorder and played a recording of the conversation we had. While we were listening to the recording, my wife's face suddenly turned pale and she was shaking. After listening to the recording, my lawyer told them all of my demands. I kept my emotions in check and waited quietly for the other party's answer as I had been told before. The man yelled at my wife saying, "You said you were on the pill!" The lawyer restrained the man and calmed him down, and now I had to listen to what the man had to say. He said that he heard my wife was now complaining about how lonely she was, which is why he approached her. Then my wife took a liking to him and started going out for drinks with him. I thought if I kept pushing her, I might be able to get her to sleep with me, so I asked her out, and we got it on, the man said. "So you knew that she was married?" the lawyer asked, and the man nodded. "Well, it makes sense because she was his employee." The lawyer understood this. "You had an affair with her knowing that she was married." As I told you earlier, this conversation was also recorded, so it can be used as evidence. "If this were to go to trial, you wouldn't stand a chance," he said, but the man said, "I am the victim because she was the more aggressive one." He kept on ranting. At that moment, I noticed a ring on his left finger. "Are you married?" I asked him, and he said he just got married last month. I thought, I'm going to ruin his life too. "Then call your wife and bring her here," I said. The man didn't want to, but he finally gave in after I gave him a deadly stare. While waiting for his wife to arrive, "Let's be thorough," the lawyer said. I don't know about anyone else, but I think this lawyer is a very flippant type of guy. Meanwhile, the wife of the man came to the office. When the lawyer explained what happened, his wife threw the ring she took off at him and grabbed him by the chest. She was about to hit him, so my lawyer and I rushed to stop her. The wife of the man was still in a state of rage. "I'm getting a divorce, so do what you want with this guy," she said. Then, facing the man, "What are you going to do about the baby in my stomach, you piece of trash?" she yelled. Apparently, the wife and the man had just gotten married, and they met at the supermarket where they both worked. The wife was quite shocked at the man's lack of discernment, but she was appalled that a man would have an affair with a married woman if he knew she was married. The wife was still very angry, so we decided to take her out of the room for a while to let her calm down. In the meantime, me, my wife, and the cheating partner proceeded with our conversation. When she found out that she couldn't count on the man, my wife got very impatient and started screaming that she didn't want to get a divorce. "I don't want to see the woman who conceived and gave birth to another man's child anymore. It's disgusting," I told her. Then she started sobbing, but agreed to the divorce. I charged her $30,000 in alimony. She requested there be no division of property, and that she would ask the man to pay child support for the child. The man said, "I don't want to pay child support," and started yelling. But he shut up when my lawyer told him about the trial. I demanded $50,000 in alimony from the man, and he refused at first. "Wouldn't it be a disaster if we went to court and your company found out about it?" Once I said that, he reluctantly agreed. I may have been a bit threatening, but the lawyer pretended not to know. Thank God he was a good-natured guy. The fee was paid shortly after. I don't think my wife has that kind of money, so it's probably coming from her parents, but I didn't care who paid it because I wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible. After the divorce papers were filed, I got a call from my ex-father-in-law, and he asked me to meet him. As soon as I met with my ex-father-in-law, he said I'm sorry about my idiot daughter. He got down on his knees and apologized. My ex-wife moved back to her parents' house after the divorce, and she does not go outside. Apparently, she had abandoned her kid because it was hard to hear him calling for daddy. But I couldn't bring myself to raise that child as my own. Well, I guess my ex-parents-in-law can take care of the child. After the divorce, I went back to my parents' house and lived a lazy life. I was told to take some time off from work because I was completely useless at work, probably due to stress. I had a lot of paid time off, so I took a couple of months off to recover mentally and physically. My coworkers and boss didn't ask me any questions. That must have been rough. "Let's go out for a drink when you get settled," they said. Later, I heard that my ex-wife had a bad reputation among female employees. I found out later that she was always flirting with male employees and many women who hated her. I guess I wasn't a good judge of character after all. I can't think about the next time right now, but if I remarry, I'll make sure to check out her reputation first. We look forward to your viewing. Please subscribe to our channel.